It is Friday morning. Welcome to the 734. I'm Jason DeRusha. Thanks for spending a little time with us today as we get you updated on the latest on another tumultuous night in Minneapolis, also spreading to St. Paul. Let's get you up to date on the weather forecast first. It is going to be a cooler day than normal. The high in the upper 60s. We'll be lucky to get up to 70 today. Mostly sunny, but a crisp evening, crisp day. And that is what we should expect. At least all weekend it's going to be dry. Well, it has been another evening of chaos and destruction across parts of the Twin Cities after the death of George Floyd. The National Guard had joined the state patrol in the Lake Street area of Minneapolis. Cordero has been reporting there for us all morning.
I'm standing along Lake Street right now in 31st. We were pushed back about an hour ago. Earlier this morning, we spent most of the morning over around 27th and Lake. That is in the middle of what has now been barricaded off by Minnesota State Patrol alongside the National Guard, and Minneapolis Police is in there as well. But earlier today, you can see right now that the firefighters, once this truck gets out of the way, you can see firefighters are still working on this fire that is at a building, and it has destroyed a building on 27th and Lake. Earlier today, as I was starting to mention, we saw about 100 or so Minnesota State Patrol officers lined up where you see the line formed right now. Initially, as far back, I believe, as 27th and then pushing forward to 28th, eventually pushing forward to where they are right now on 29th. This is kind of the calmer part of the morning, if you will believe it. We showed up around 4:30 a.m. to a whole lot of chaos, to the fires, to the people who were still out from overnight. As we follow through the rest of the day, it will be really interesting to see what the presence that we have not, the police presence, the National Guard presence that we have not seen in the past 48 hours, how that will affect the tone and what happens throughout the rest of today.
Thanks, Christiane. You saw the National Guard. You saw the State Patrol out there. The Guard has pulled out as of 7:36 with preparations to be back tonight. We did see several large fires in different parts of Minneapolis this morning. Let me show you Lake Street and 27th. This is what Christiane was talking about. This is what it looked like around 5 this morning. A building with Gandhi Mahal, a terrific Indian restaurant, Town Talk Diner, with its sign out front. That was a historic landmark in Minneapolis. That building has largely collapsed. Show you the 3rd Police Precinct, because that is really a huge story. It's been a focal point of so many protests, and that precinct has fallen this morning. This was the scene around 10 last night when you see part of that building going up in flames. We do know at some point before the fire, the mayor gave the order for police to evacuate the building, essentially ceding the building to the people who were trying to storm it. The 3rd Precinct was a focal point. That is where the officers involved in the death of George Floyd were stationed, where they worked out of, and that's why there's been so much protest here. You see the fire, you see the crowd as those people took control of the 3rd Precinct. Protests also seen in downtown Minneapolis. You know, a lot of protests that had happened were very peaceful. This was around 4th and Nicollet last night. You can see the State Patrol again, still tense, for sure tense, as the patrol tries to protect some of the skyscrapers downtown. St. Paul had its own activity in the overnight hours. Police say more than 170 businesses, 170, were damaged or looted throughout the day. This fire at Big Top Liquor was one of the largest. This is really just steps away from Allianz Field, which is where Minnesota United FC plays, the soccer team. Brand new stadium there. This is in St. Paul's Midway neighborhood. You could see the flames from all over the Twin Cities. This is the traffic camera at I-94 in Snelling Avenue. They have been diverting traffic from Snelling as firefighters continue to work on this. This is Lloyd's Pharmacy just up the road on Snelling, another one of those nearly 200 buildings that saw damage in the city of St. Paul. Now, these protests really started Tuesday after the death of George Floyd Monday night. He moved here from Houston, Texas. He was here to start a new life. The people who knew Floyd tell us he was kind and loving. The video that surfaced of a Minneapolis police officer pinning Floyd to the ground by his neck on Monday night is what sparked all of this. The officers involved have been fired, and are being investigated, but no one has been charged. Mayor Fry from Minneapolis getting into it with President Trump overnight. Just before midnight, the president sent out a pair of tweets saying, "I can't stand back and watch this happen to a great American city, Minneapolis." He called it a total lack of leadership, called the mayor the very weak radical left mayor. Said he has to get his act together and bring the city under control, or he will send in the National Guard and get the job done right. And this is a tweet that got Twitter to act. "These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd. I won't let it happen. Spoke with the governor, told him the military's with him. Any difficulty and we will assume control. But when the looting starts, the shooting starts." Twitter flagged this tweet and obscured it, saying it violated Twitter rules about glorifying violence. That's the first time that Twitter has taken any sort of action against the president like this. Mayor Fry learned about the president's tweets during his news conference at 1:30 in the morning, and he didn't hold back in his response.
Weakness is refusing to take responsibility for your own actions. Weakness is pointing your finger at somebody else during a time of crisis. Donald Trump knows nothing about the strength of Minneapolis. We are strong as hell. Is this a difficult time period? Yes, but you better be damn sure that we're going to get through this.
We do expect to hear from Governor Tim Walz later this morning. He has a news conference scheduled for 10 this morning, and he has faced quite a bit of criticism for the fact that he has not been out in front over the last couple of days. The governor did apologize for this happening this morning. State Patrol arrested a CNN reporter and a crew while they were live on the air covering what was happening here in Minneapolis. CNN is reporting that Governor Walz apologized to the president of CNN, ordered they be released immediately. State Patrol has confirmed that this crew of 3 has been released, and the governor saying he'll talk about that and apologize publicly in his news conference today. One other note that is important this morning: Minneapolis public school system calling off their emergency child care services today to keep everyone safe. A lot of restaurants and businesses closed early yesterday. You can expect probably the same thing today if protests start up again. As a precaution, a number of businesses around the Twin Cities shut it down because of unrest. And not just in the central city core, the Mall of America out in Bloomington. This is Rosedale Mall. They closed early. There were no protests there. Managers say they're not sure when these malls will reopen. Target has closed 24 Twin Cities locations in the name of safety. We know of at least 2 Target stores that have been the focus of looting over the last couple days. But there's been looting activity all over the Twin Cities, including some reported at a Target in Brooklyn Park. This downtown Target all boarded up. Target saying the focus right now is really on their team members' safety, trying as well to help the community heal. So lots of stuff happening this morning for sure, and we'll continue to keep you updated here on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube as news develops throughout the day on WCCO. We're also streaming all the time on CBSN Minnesota. 7:34, back with you next Monday.